What if one saxophone line could instantly tell a story of guilt, regret, and lost innocence? Before the lyrics even begin, your heart already knows how this song will end. This is the story of George Michael and the song that turned heartbreak into one of the most recognizable sounds in music history, Careless Whisper. Welcome to Soundscape, where we don't just revisit classic songs, we uncover why they still follow us through life. Tonight's story isn't about fame, it's about emotional honesty, and how one young artist changed pop music by letting vulnerability lead. This is the story of how a song became an apology to the world. Before the world knew him as George Michael, he was Georgios Kyriakos Paniotou, the son of Greek Cypriot parents growing up in England. Music was his escape, his private language in a world that often felt confusing. But confidence didn't come easily. As a teenager, George struggled with his identity, with crippling self-doubt, and the immense pressure to fit into expectations he didn't fully understand yet. He felt like an outsider looking in, even in his own life. Alongside his best friend Andrew Ridgeley, he formed Wham, a band that exploded onto the scene, built on pure, unadulterated youth, vibrant color and infectious optimism. They were the soundtrack to a carefree summer, the very definition of pop exuberance. But beneath that bright, smiling image, a different kind of artist was already emerging. George was writing something much deeper, much sadder, and far more complex than the neon-colored pop hits suggested. He was carrying a story inside him that needed to get out. The most incredible part of this story is that George Michael was only 17 years old when he began writing Careless Whisper. Think about that for a moment. At an age typically defined by high school crushes and weekend plans, he was crafting a narrative of profound emotional consequence. This wasn't a song about teenage drama or a simple breakup. It was about betrayal. More than that, it was about the crushing weight of knowing you've hurt someone you love, and now you have to live with that truth forever. The song's now legendary saxophone riff wasn't just a catchy intro, it was a deliberate choice. George famously tried out over 10 different saxophonists to get it just right. He wasn't looking for something flashy or technically perfect. He was looking for a sound that felt like a confession, a sound that dripped with regret you can't undo. Before the first word is ever sung, that saxophone line already confesses. It sets the scene, it tells you the mood, and it prepares your heart for the fallout. Careless Whisper isn't about the act of cheating itself, or the drama of being caught. It's about the quiet, internal aftermath. It's a song about self-awareness. The narrator isn't angry at the person who found him out. He isn't making excuses or trying to defend his actions. He's just ashamed, deeply and irrevocably ashamed. And that shame is captured in one of pop music's most iconic lines, "I'm never gone, nah, dance again, guilty feet have got no rhythm." That single line changed pop songwriting forever. It was a masterclass in using a physical metaphor to describe an emotional state. The joy of dancing, something once shared, is now impossible because his own body is weighed down by guilt. It proved 3 revolutionary things. First, that men in pop music could sing about emotional responsibility, not just blame or anger. Second, that mainstream pop could be introspective and reflective. And third, that vulnerability could be incredibly powerful. This wasn't macho heartbreak. This was emotional accountability set to a melody. Released in 1984, Careless Whisper didn't just become a hit, it became a global phenomenon. It was an unstoppable force of nature. The song went to #1 in over 20 countries, a testament to its universal theme of regret. It became one of the best-selling singles of all time, its saxophone melody echoing from radios in every corner of the globe. And although it was released under the Wham name in some regions, and credited to Wham featuring George Michael and others, the world knew the truth. This was different. This was George Michael's soul, his voice, stepping forward from the group dynamic and into the spotlight, alone. The song served as a clear dividing line. On one side, the joyful pop of Wham. On the other, the mature, complex artistry of George Michael. And from that moment on, pop music was never the same. In the middle of the flashy, loud, and often superficial 1980s, Careless Whisper did something radical. It slowed everything down. It pressed pause on the frantic energy of the decade and created a space for emotional honesty, for quiet reflection, and for a kind of romantic vulnerability that was rarely seen on the pop charts. It completely reshaped the image of male pop stars. It showed that they didn't have to hide behind bravado, leather jackets, or aggressive posturing. They could feel, they could be broken, they could admit fault, and audiences responded to that honesty in a massive way. The song resonated deeply with people who had been in that same situation, either as the one who was hurt, or the one who caused the hurt. It gave a voice to a feeling that was often left unspoken. Let's pause for a second. We all have a memory attached to this song. Where were you the first time you heard Careless Whisper? Maybe it was on a car radio on a late-night drive, or at a school dance. Did it remind you of someone? Or maybe something you wish you'd done differently? Let us know in the comments. And tell us, what song should Soundscape explore next in our series, Songs That Changed a Generation? Your comment might just inspire our next episode. After this song, George Michael could no longer be contained within the boy band shadow. The world had seen his potential, and there was no going back. He became a respected songwriter, an artist whose peers looked to him for his lyrical depth and melodic genius. He became a fearless performer, commanding stages with a new kind of confidence born from authenticity, not arrogance. Most importantly, he became a voice for emotional truth. His solo career, launched with iconic albums like Faith and the bold Listen Without Prejudice, proved that he wasn't just chasing fame or hit records. He was chasing something far more elusive: authenticity. He wanted his music to be a true reflection of his own journey, his questions, and his discoveries about life and love. Later in life, George would use his powerful voice to speak about freedom, identity, and compassion, often doing his most profound work quietly, away from the glare of the spotlight. Today, nearly 4 decades later, Careless Whisper still lives on. Its life extends far beyond 80s nostalgia playlists. You hear it in films, often used as a shorthand for romantic regret or bittersweet memory. It's a staple at weddings and, ironically, a comfort during breakups. It's the song that plays in countless quiet, late-night memories, when we're alone with our thoughts and our pasts. It reminds us that music doesn't need to shout to be unforgettable. It doesn't need to be aggressive or trendy to stay relevant. Sometimes, the most powerful thing a song can do is just be honest. The saxophone still sounds like a sigh, and the lyrics still feel like a confession whispered directly into your ear. Careless Whisper didn't change the world by being loud or rebellious in the traditional sense. It changed the world by allowing a young man to admit his mistakes out loud, on a global stage, and in doing so, gave millions of people permission to acknowledge their own. This has been Soundscape, where songs don't just play in the background, they sit with us in our quietest moments. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories behind the music.